But yeah, so with that, you're a little one and you're cruising the Broadways and all of that. Do you have and you're dancing? Do you have other hobbies or things that a little one version of you is up to?
God, no. Dance was my life. I took music classes. Like I took piano for years. Um, I was very music centric, you know, like I grew
What
up
kind
growing
of
up in New York City. There were so many things like ice skating and like gymnastics and after school this and that. But for me, I didn't like being around other kids. I thought they were immature, and you couldn't tell that now because I'm a child. Like now I'm a child, but as a kid, I was like super serious and like into my fucking dance and like like it was
what
everything.
kind of dance?
Ballet, tap, jazz. You know, I was auditioning for videos and like I wanted to be a professional. Like I wanted to work, you know? Um,
That's dope.
so it
You
was
and my wife
that's
have that in common.
yeah,
She's she
like I
also
just
was
wanted to work.
tap ballet, and she would do like her best friend was a little Puerto Rican chick, so she was in a like salsa troupe and shit. You know what I mean? And so she would do that too. And
Yeah,
of course, you're growing up in New York in the '80s and '90s, so it's like, how do you not do hip hop dance too? You know what I mean? So it's just
yeah.
like it's a lot of, but the fact that you did the classic, you know what I mean? Ballet, and that must have been rough on your toes, huh?
It was rough on my body. Like I like
That's what I
didn't
hear.
eat for a million years. Like I would eat a green pepper for lunch, you know?
That's what
And
I
that
heard. That's what
definitely
my
was
wife
part
said.
of the reason why I stopped. Once they got to the point where they wanted to put me on toe, I knew girls that were on point and like you destroy your body. You just they're athletes. Like when you get to that level of dance, you're just a pure athlete. There's no difference. And I knew that I didn't want to do that. I didn't like being on stage. I was very shy. My brother will still make fun of like all these shows that he came to see me in, and he said I was always looking down. So I had to figure out another route to fulfill everything I needed
Yeah,
from
that's
music.
telltale sign. Telltale sign of somebody scared of the stage is them looking down.
Yo, I couldn't. Like I just couldn't handle it. I hated it. But, you know,
Right.
whatever.
I see that's a huge difference too between a lot of the people. Everybody seems to love the stage that we talk to, but
Yeah.
so what happens after you stop doing the dance schools and stuff then?
um I went into high school and I went to a Jesuit Catholic school from kindergarten to 8th grade. I call it a bid. That was 13 years of like hardcore Catholicism and shit. So for high school, I told my mom I wanted to go to LaGuardia High School, which is in New York City. Basically, if you remember the show Fame, it's a artistic
Yes.
centric high school where you have concentration. So you either go there for dance, for acting, art, or voice. So I wanted to go for dance, and my mother just forbade me. She was like, "There's no way you're going to go to this public school. Like you have to go to Sacred Heart." All the women in my family in Bolivia went to this school. It's an international school. And I was just devastated. I didn't want to do it. And I went and got kicked out after 2 years. And politics. Um, and I ended up going to this very alternative school with like me and one other student in class. Like they basically custom made your learning experience for your strengths, you know? And I ended up graduating early. I graduated from high school a year early and went to work for a graffiti artist.
Wow, that's another unexpected twist on my side. How did that come to be? And what does work for a
Um,
graffiti artist mean?
a friend of mine called me one night and said, "Look, I want to take you downtown to the village and see what my friend is opening." And we pulled up, and there was a store on Houston between Allen and what's the one over? Remember where White Rabbit used to be, Flacco?
No, I don't.
Okay, well, it's on East Houston. And there was about, a 75 square foot store. and there was graffiti, like murals painted on the floor, the ceiling, but they were still getting it together. And there was like, they had to get merch open. And I walked in and told the dude, I was like, there's too much testosterone in here. I was like, you need me to come help you open the store. When are you opening it? And he said, tomorrow at 11 a.m. I was like, okay, I'll be here. And like, I basically hired myself. And it ended up being that was Andre Charles, who goes by Zone, who's a very well-known old school graffiti artist from the Bronx. He has the TCT crew, the city's talent. He's known for this baby Brandon caricature that, you know, used to be all over Manhattan.
I was gonna say, I feel like I've seen, like, you're talking about like the big baby with the pacifier in its mouth and the
What ended up happening is after that store closed, he got another gig up the block and he did the demolition and the reconstruction and the art at Baby Jupiter. And I helped him. And then one day somebody's like, let's go to this open mic. And we walk up and I was like, yo, I did this spot with Andre, and it ended up being the first night of end of the week.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I just told Zoo and Nuns that story like a year ago. I like, they had no idea.
So you were working with the graffiti guy.
Serendipitous
and
energy.
And that brought you to the first end of the week on a random, let's go check this thing.
Yeah, after a couple of years. At the first store, you know, I just helped manage and keep the store tight the way he needed, help sell his merch. We also did Club Vinyl on Saturday nights. So I'd help hire the girls that he body painted and make sure they were comfortable at the club and ready to get on stage half naked and get painted and didn't get scared at the last minute. You know, we did the opening of the Temple of Hip Hop for KRS New Year's '97, and he was commissioned to repaint and design the hip hop room where Stretch Armstrong spun. And in those days, they took such good care
I'm
of
like,
me.
what was that, 97? I'm like, damn, I don't remember there being like anything before that was like, I mean, I don't know though, because I don't know what was happening in the 80s, right? Like, I wasn't outside like that in the 80s. I was outside, like all kids are outside, right? But like, I wasn't outside like doing grown folks' business, run, you know what I mean? So I don't know, like, but I'm like, damn, is that like the first time that like a hip hop artist kind of curated a location and did like a kind of like a pop-up shop museum type thing, which is happening a lot, right? Like the trap museum that T.I. is doing is in that vein.
What's interesting is what that night is that, you know, the club would be open from Friday to Sunday morning, I think like almost straight probably. And then the Temple of Hip Hop program would happen Sunday afternoons in this club and be open to like kids, I think. And by kids, I think adolescents, not like little ones.
Yeah.
But I never attended, you know. But that night opened the door to so much. That was the first time I ever met Chris, Angie Martinez, Mad Lion was there. And I was, you know, a kid and in this green room. And I remember Chris was like, yo, what are you doing in here? You're a little girl. And I was like, I'm your biggest fan. And he was like, I'm going to see you down the road one day. And about 3 years later, I ended up seeing him because an artist I was working with was opening for him. And we passed each other and he recognized me. He completely remembered. He's like, I told you I was going to see you. That's so dope. I just, you know, I took advantage of the opportunities and the circles that I found myself in. And it's taken me on a dope journey. You know, it's crazy that something I did prior to, you know, EOW even existing had to do with EOW. You know, looking back to from where I am now, it's like, so half my life has been connected to the dub, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. So it's a deep history.
That's actually, like, it's cool. And like, it all starts because you got connected to the graffiti guy, then he gets all these opportunities, which puts you into the rooms with the right people, which lets you start to build your own relationships, etc. Which is a big time knowledge nugget. Go take advantage of those things when you're in rooms with people.
Yeah, people need to adopt some of that attitude that you had. That's like general life. We were literally discussing before we jumped on for this interview with you. Me and Holden were talking about like the lack of maybe will and want that artists tend to have to like get things going for themselves, and how much kind of I mentioned how like artists have like a real like they just swear that somebody's gonna come knocking on their door and be like, "You are so talented. Here's $1 million." Like, which is like that never happens. I don't know what you're waiting for, what you think is gonna happen. You better fucking go out there and hustle and get
Yeah,
some shit.
I don't know. I can't imagine what it's like to be, 17 or 18 now with all the technology and this like instant, this constant music being put out. And it doesn't matter what you are. It's like not even music. Like, let's say you want to be on the business side. It's just there's this waterfall of stuff that's just always consistently rolling out, And
Yeah,
I think gives people or younger people a false impression of like it's easy, like everyone's doing
yeah.
it. And in one sense, that's great. But on the other
And
hand,
it is somewhat true,
there's a
but it's
sense of
also not
paying
true.
dues. Yeah, that
Yes,
exists that now everybody could do it themselves. Like at
yes,
17, I couldn't go and be like, I want to design the hip hop room for Club Vinyl. Like I know what it's like to intern. And when I got internships and just put myself in a place that was like, can you just like buy me lunch? And they would say yes. I wasn't going to be, fetching coffee and stapling papers for very long. Like I was the first one
yeah.
there. I was the last one to leave. I would do anything they needed. And that's what created relationships for me that have lasted
Hmm.
my whole life or half my life since then. I haven't consistently been involved in music. I have my times where I definitely step away. I've done real estate. I've done commercial mortgage brokerage. I've had an accident with my back, but there are still those people that will call me and say, Michelle, I have this going on. Do you have something that where there's synergy that we could work together, and vice versa? It doesn't have to be this consistent presence, always in the spot, always in the
Yep.
room. That's irrelevant. It's about
Yeah.
quality relationships, and it's about what you prove to people that you can offer, and from a genuine place. It has to be a win-win situation.
Yeah,
Right.
everything you said
Right.
is big facts there.
Absolutely.
Like,
Big facts, because most people aren't doing that though. You know what I mean? Like most, so it's like this is good for people to hear, for the people that
that's true.
need to hear it.
I kind of do a little bit understand the little people though, because like it used to be like work at your company for a decade and you get a watch, and it's not really like that no more either. So there's like a kind of
No.
like a lot of these little ones, because I do this interview, and some of the most surprising people I talk to are under the age of 20, because they really have put like 9 years into their craft already. And that's the other side, is when you can start at 12, you can actually pay a lot of dues, so to speak. Maybe not the same
Yeah, pretty
social dues, but at least
It's
not
the
the
just
same.
different.
Yeah, yeah,
the 10,000 hours.
yeah,
A lot of these kids, we think they never listened to Biggie, but they bumped Biggie when they were 12 and probably didn't understand it, which is not the same thing.
yeah, yeah.
And then like,
Hmm.
but then it's like also, where are the people in their 30s and 40s really creating that many lanes for 20-year-olds these days too? Like, it's not like that's why like I'm really into this topic of what you're saying, and I'm trying to innovate that kind of stuff in my city, because I'm like, and end of the week actually is doing that right now in Montreal. They have this whole fucking program with the kids, and that's beautiful, but like that wasn't happening as much, I find, prior to COVID. And like COVID made a lot of us go, oh, we need to be kinder and more community centric. But like prior to that, it was kind of vicious to be a little one. I would be like,
Really.
yeah, like there's not a lot of people giving those opportunities, because they're going for university grads with 1 to 3 year experiences, and internships, at least in Quebec, are paid. So nobody's getting a gig. Yeah, there are paid internships. You got to do at least minimum wage on an
You
internship.
saw my eyes?
Yeah.
I was like, yes.
I mean, right? Like, I mean, think about it though, right? Sis, like, paid internships is what we had. It's just they usually always started out as a free internship. But again, like you said, right? Like, look, when I was street teaming with Sincere over at Frontline Marketing and Promotion, I spent maybe like 2 weeks as an unpaid intern. You know what I mean?
That's the
Like
thing.
all it took me was 2 weeks of showing them what I could do for him to be like, all right, yo, I'll break you off some bread. You know what I'm saying? Like,
my theory is just that if there were more opportunities like that for young people that were not being sniped by 26-year-olds right now, because that's kind of what's happening, or I think you would see more of that. Now they're just kind of left with themselves, and so they're building their own version of it. Like, some of the hottest things I'm seeing in my city are coming from these groups of 18 to 23-year-olds that were like, fuck you old people, we're gonna do it ourselves. And it's the most grassroots rebuilding shit I've ever seen, and they're doing it, and it's like, that's cool.
Yeah, nah, young people are innovative.
That's the birth of hip-hop. I mean, that's what hip-hop did 50 years ago.
Exactly.
So
that's what young people are supposed to do.
So I just want to give props to the young, and it's not
that
all of them, but it's what I'm noticing is happening. I would say your grievances with millennials, and you're fucking right.
I have a lot of respect for everybody kind of doing things at their own time. You know, it's like you can't expect a dog to act like a cat. So me at 43, I had a different experience at 20 than 20-year-olds do now. So for me to judge how things are being done, it's like you have to have some grace with that.
But what you said about relationships being important is still the biggest key to success. That never changed. And that's what they're doing. And it's really cool.
And working hard never, you know what I mean? Like, there's no replication for working hard and being ambitious.
Ooh, and proving your value, like, I think you said. Proving what you can do. Oof. That's all facts. So,